And we have Rift. We just saw a glimpse of Lissandra walking down the lane. Cool skin there as well. The Ice Queen in the mid lane. Do we have anything interesting in terms of runes? It looks like pretty standard stuff. Lissandra going with the spellbook. So a little bit more versatility in terms of the different spells she can select later on. Will mean that she doesn't really have the immediate lane power, I guess, but as you said earlier, Lissandra is one of those champions that can just spam one spell on a 1 second cooldown and get away with it, so you shouldn't suffer too much in the early laning phase. Let's see how it goes later on. I feel like Lissandra has changed her identity quite a bit over the course of the years. She used to be very low DPS late game and just engage bot, but nowadays, after especially her passive rework, especially after some of the changes to her AP ratios, her scaling in terms of damage is not actually that bad. Yes, she's still mostly just there for the initial 2-3 seconds of the fight, right? Getting that big initiation going, getting that big engage on one of the priority targets. But actually with the thralls dealing AoE damage and, as I said earlier, the AP damage being improved and some of the items also synergizing better now. Wow. Ignore that one. I think she's actually decently strong in the late game and can contribute quite a bit in terms of damage there as well.
Yeah, I've always been shocked because I always thought Lissandra Viego was a really good combination after the passive rework, because it's like when Viego gets the execute that you know they're going to be aiming for, then you can snowball it into like Lissandra passes that lead to thralls that lead to more executions, which is like exactly what you're trying to play for in the first place. So I always thought that was going to be a mean combination. Maybe somebody
What the?
Okay, that's Zodiac with the absolute filthiest hook I've ever seen in my entire life that led to positively nothing because Ron OP played it properly by getting the aftershock right at the edge of that Q hitting. So somehow, not only did Zodiac hit the dirtiest play of all time.
Ooh, everyone is here. Ego with the first blood.
That's Ego, first blood, coming out here. Now Flight's chasing after Yado, East Tomrio. They're going to be able to get him, but that's going to be an Ego double kill to kick off our game. Yo, wait, welcome back, King of the Jungle.
Let's go. Ego is he's such an enigma. He's maybe the main character or the main antagonist of the league. We even had a trailer where Ego was the last boss sitting on that chair, and that's remarkable because everyone knows how famous Levi is, how beloved Levi is, 6-time champion of the league. Usually he's the center of all the trailers, so they actually made a trailer where it was not Levi but Ego. That just tells you how much of a prodigy this player is, how much of a talent and just a myth as well. He comes back first game, his old championship roster on Cerberus, these are the exact 5 players, and here he is, Flash Q, perfectly played. Tries to protect Yado with decent movement there to get in front of Tomrio, but not quite able to do it. But that was a very impressive first impression from the side of Ego. He's back.
Yeah, it was really weird because so much of what we heard last year was like how much the Ego might have been a disruption to the team and, just tearing off the Band-Aid as fast as possible. There's a lot of things that happened with Ego inside of like the game house that like he was around for the roster for some of the year and they just didn't play him, and Drakthar was in for such a long time. And it was really weird because when he was on stage, I almost expected a very different era of energy from Cerberus. But having seen all of their players, they looked happy. They looked like they were joking. They looked like they're like, it's almost like there was like this, it's almost like they just needed to give him a chance once again. Maybe time has like kind of mended the wounds. But if they're like enjoying themselves as much as they were on stage with Ego coming back, maybe it is a bit of a sigh of relief for these players, knowing that they've got somebody this talented to return. Because this is a different look roster. I don't know that any other jungler would be able to rock this with Cerberus. I don't know that Artemis would allow any other jungler to take this much prevalence with like the Ryze and the Lee Sin. Usually you'd be wanting to play around this AD.
Good flash.
Wow. They're just bullying Emo, man. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, that's good timing because, of course, he gets level 6 soon, and level 6 you can't die from anymore with the ultimate available. But yeah, I want to talk about Ego a little bit more because this is so exciting, and especially from the perspective of Cerberus, right? Because Cerberus acquired Ego after he was already a champion of the league. He was champion in Flash, then didn't play Spring Split because Ego does weird things. He demanded more salary, they didn't pay him, so he went to a different team. And Ego and Cerberus was quite an interesting deal because Cerberus as a team of 5 members, was already an established core, right? We had Artemis, Ron OP already, Hugh, clubbing in here and there. We had Pan and Yado, so all these players had been playing together in all of 2021 and even parts of 2020. Artemis emerging as one of the big carries of the whole of the whole league, one of the best players of the league. But they missed that sense of engage, that X factor with their prior jungler, and they were never really able to get it together in players. And then Ego came in, and he was exactly that. He provided this team that had really good formulaic players, very good standard front-to-back team fighters, and Artemis and Pan and so on, with that X factor, with that engage sense, with that champion flexibility. And he's also a great team fighter. Back in Flash in 2020, he was the best team fighting jungler. That was actually the reason he was able to win against Levi and Gum. He was the better Trundle player. He was the better Lilia player. So this edition of Ego, at the first time of asking in Cerberus in 2021's winter, brought them over the line, made them that formidable team that not only had amazing team fighting and good laning, but also that crazy jungler that brought the X factor.
It gave them an angle that they had never been able to play for before,
Exactly.
which for Cerberus, it was always a team fighting avenue. And then when Ego showed up, all of a sudden they had an early game. Like they had an amazing early game, not even just an early game, one of the best in the entire league, because they could design a game plan around one of the most mechanically gifted junglers that existed inside the VCS, which was such a kind of a very, very big difference comparatively. Look at that emo again. They're giving him the rookie treatment today. That's the third time that we've seen Ego join up with Yado to just bully this poor Lissandra, not allowing anything to come through. Now Ron OP actually stuns up Zodiac on the bottom side. That damage from
Look who's
Artemis.
here.
And Ego's here. Level 6 as well. A good kick from onto slows, I think, is what you're looking for more than anything. Could jump in on a Zodiac as Yado here as well. It's going to be an execution immediately underneath the tower, who's got aggro. Rado holds it just long enough to make sure that nobody's going to go down. As 2 kills over to Lee Sin. Now Ego, does he want to jump back in? Once again, Tom Rio presses the ultimate just to make sure that there's enough CC. He's just going to die too. And that's 3 kills under the bot tower, Yulway. Welcome back, Ego. We missed him so much. I know there were a lot of reasons he was gone, but man, I could. This is not the same VCS without this guy.
And this is not the same Cerberus. Okay, let's first take a look at this play. It all started with mid control into Emo. Emo had ultimate, but there's no real reason for him to use it. He's dead to rights. And then they set up the wave. They have the best bot lane, or used to have the best bot lane. Really good poke. We have Zodiac low. Now Zodiac can't defend against the dive, and they're dead. This is they're already dead on my screen. But Tom Rio tries to salvage it, and Tom Rio actually gets to level 6, but not soon enough. He gets to level 6 after his bot lane is already dead. After this minion dies, I believe. So yeah, now he's level 6, but that's just too late. If he was level 6 when his bot lane was attacked under tower, maybe he could have bought enough time, but it's just beautiful play. And Cerberus actually being so proactive. Look at them. Here they go again. The Emo. Okay. On the last frame.
Yeah, very, very big procs. Emo was able to actually throw that E at the exact right time to make sure to get away from Yado there. But yeah, this is rookies getting absolutely kicked around. There is nothing much to be said about it. That bottom lane dive, to me, also showed a lot of inexperience. There were a handful of times that I feel like there were better options than what was being decided by any player at any time. I think Zodiac actually misplayed pretty hard under the tower as well, trying to hook past the tower to grab the ADC rather than just grabbing the closest person. And now immediately onto slows. He's going to have to insta-cleanse, and it was a very well-timed cleanse right there. But he's going to have to dump the summoner spell just so that he does not die to Artemis. And now, Yado is here again. Leave them alone, you bullies. Cerberus, this is a good look at Cerberus. We missed this Cerberus, Yulway.
Oh yeah, so proactive. Really not something you associate with Cerberus. This looks more like a Saigon Buffalo or Gum early game, right? Because usually Cerberus is the one to scale, just play solid lanes and defend in the early game, but no, they're not defending anything. They're the aggressors here. I have to praise Slows, though. I was very, very hard on him before, but that was really good mechanical play. Just dodging the ultimate to not get stunned, and then insta-cleanse, as he pointed out. Really good timing. He couldn't even see the animation of the cleanse because it was frame perfect, so gets away with his life. But then again, he once again picked Draven, Nautilus, and you're falling behind. He's already dead, so he lost the stacks already. That's not really on slows, to be honest. That's more a team thing, but once again, it seems like the Draven plan has faltered.
I'm curious what the plan. Oh, wow, you really, really good E. Oh, tragic. Okay, just barely not killing slows. is he's going to dump the ultimate just to make sure that the wave doesn't crash and there's nothing else to be had right there. Red buff almost ticked down, so Ego would have picked up another kill right there. But think about like what we've been watching with this early game, where now you've got probably one of the most kind of aggressive early junglers making these insane plays. You throw that in with one of the better kind of scaling ADCs, one of the better scaling mid laners in the entire region with all the team fighting that they've got, and also one of the better scaling top laners. Think about like now you can blind pick tanks in the top lane, or you can counter pick with like Jax. And so they've got very few weaknesses on this roster. This is a really hard roster to break in terms of drafts. This is that bottom line play. And again, Slow showing some mechanical kind of prowess right there. One auto attack would have made a world of difference. I think one auto attack definitely kills for Ego and finds lethal on that.
Yeah, good E. Once again, Slow is actually able to find the one opportunity to counterplay. He interrupted Ego's follow-up Q, and that's why Slow's didn't die. Yeah, if you can see it here. So Ego doesn't have the Q, actually. That's why he tries to flash ultimate. But because the Q damage is missing, he barely misses that one. So it looked like a misplay from Ego was actually just really good play from Slows. He used his stand aside to, or whatever it's called, the E, to push him away out of his E animation.
I think that's right. I think stand aside is right. I think you nailed
so, right?
it there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, not that up to date with the ability names, but it should be the correct one. It's the one where he pushes people to the side. So even if it's not called stand aside, it is by definition a stand aside. But if we go back to the discussion of the team of Cerberus, this is exactly why they were able to win a title, even though you called it the Mickey Mouse split, and there's some credence to that, right? Some teams just didn't perform as well. The finals was a very close affair. It was Cerberus against Gam, and Gam did not want to lose that title. They fought tooth and nail. They went to 5 games, but honestly, from the get-go, and that series on that day, I was always thinking, okay, Cerberus is going to win today. Yes, Gam was able to get 2 wins, and mostly through better skirmishing, through better early games. But whenever it went into the late game stage, they just couldn't win team fights. It was just Cerberus dominating with solid team fight compositions, and Ego being able to match Levi, even outperform Levi, is one of the only junglers ever in the VCS to do so.
It's like I said, they were writing a story that we were wanting for Cerberus for such a long time after Cerberus had that like undefeated start to the split back in like 2019, I think it was, or 2020. I think it was 2019 that they had like this insane start to the split where we had such high expectations because Gam had fallen not off a cliff necessarily, but they were sitting in like second, third place before the second half of the split, and it was a collapse from Cerberus, and we were like, okay, they ended up getting third, fourth, and probably were the 4th best team in that playoff bracket. As now an engagement into the mid lane, Ron OP had the aftershock again. They dumped a lot into him right there. Now Yado has a bunch of damage. Ego jumps in just to try to be a frontliner here for the rest of the team. As Yado now going to get caught up a little bit. That's a big kind of change of corruption coming through from Artemis, who's going to try to clean on the backside of this fight. He just doesn't have quite enough damage. As that's going to be Rado P finding Zodiac.
Yo, what?
How do we get more auto attacks? No. Artemis and Yado are both insanely low. As this is a 1-for-1 so far, but everybody's backing out of the mid lane.
Okay, they're having fun. They're starting to have fun with this game. That was not the play from Ego. The first time he has looked a little bit scrambled, maybe, in his decision-making, but still... Oh, we actually saw some solo kill in top lane,
maybe. We're really interested in the top side. That is Tomrio, who's kind of going at it with Yado right now, looking for something. Oh, Yado! In the play. Oh, Artemis, he's right there. Artemis, he's right there. Artemis.
Oh, Artemis.
He's right there, Artemis. You can see him. He literally
Yado wants him.
No, please. No, Yado. Okay. All right, we're done gooning now. No more, please.
Speaking of Mickey Mouse split, it's a little bit of a Mickey Mouse game now.
Truly. Just a little back and forth between it. Everybody lost their minds for a second. We went back to OG VCS type action there for just a hot minute, but we're back into normal stuff. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it because we were focused on the picture-in-picture, trying to make sure that Tom Rio was not going to go down or was going to lose the play. But how about Pun V9 getting a solo kill against Sumner here in the top lane? How about that? We were talking about it. You were talking about it before the game had started. This was another big factor for that like big split that they had won, was that Pun had access to like Tom Kench and also had access to like Dr. Mundo and a bunch of these champions that just kind of run at people and stat check them more than anything else. And again, there are decent tanks right now that actually do exactly the same thing. Cassante is a very skill-intensive tank that can do very, very similar things to those champions with the amount of damage that he's got. So it feels like a perfect meta for this team as well.
Yeah, and this is once again Renekton looking completely out of place and very, very much useless. I just checked the stats so far, 10 games.
30% win rate, right?
Yeah, 30% win rate, and there's another loss coming in.
That is Zodiac dead. That is Emo, who's going to get stuck up and not going to be able to take second half of the E. That ultimate's not going to do much for you, bud. Get a flash after. Okay, now back to the bench with you. I'm sorry, that was criminal right there.
Okay, calm down there.
Yeah, you did. He not only was the ultimate wasted right there, but then the flash afterwards has to be either tilt or something else, because that was a little unreasonable. As everybody else on the side of Vox Esports, I am obviously hyperbolic right now. I'm just gooning a team that is getting kind of wrecked right now by Cerberus as they're getting run through. It's an 8k gold advantage in only 15 minutes into the game.
It's a really solid setup, though, for Cerberus. I mean, to be honest, MBE should know that they are all there, and they send their support to face check, but it's actually really well done. Yeah, we ignore that one. I have to say, let's focus a little bit on MBE, because we have been singing Ego's praises and talking about Cerberus and reminiscence of the greats of old, but we have to spend a little bit of time on this rookie team as well, and I feel like we just saw the perfect example of the biggest flaw in their gameplay so far. Yes, their laning phase this game at least has looked rough as well. They've been outplayed in all positions, but usually they do a little bit better in the early game. But at 15 minutes, you can really just look at your watch and just time 15 minutes in an MBE game, because this has happened with 100% accuracy. So they always find a way to lose a big team fight around 15 minutes, sometimes it's 20 minutes, and it seems like this is their biggest weakness as a team, their coordination and how to approach certain choke points or objective setups. This time it was the topside river around vision, and just also how to play together, walk together as a team is off, and is much, much worse than all the other teams. We saw Flash being much more competitive, actually looking like a decent team, owing Team Secret, but MBE unfortunately is very far away from that kind of quality. So I really want to see improvement in the mid game. Just sit down with the players and talk about mid games, analyze the mid games of the other VCS teams, look at other leagues, because you need to be better at these stages of the game to have any chance of winning a game. Even if you snowball the early game, if every single game ends up in a catastrophe in the mid game, you will not win against these better teams.
What's astonishing to me is that, like, it seems like this team doesn't have a ridiculous amount of coordination, which makes sense. I mean, they're rocking what is effectively 4 rookies, because like Zodiac and Tom Rio have kind of been around a little bit, and the others just haven't as much. Again, Nogo's kind of in the same boat. So I'm a little shocked that there's like not much. This is also a rookie organization, but Box has been in VCS B for quite some time as well. So I'm surprised that they don't have some sort of foundation that would allow them to have a little bit easier of a time kind of shifting into this mindset. So I wonder how much of it is like structure of like how much of the coach is assisting, how much is the organization assisting, and how much of it is, you know, they're rocking 3 complete rookies and 2 relatively young rookies, maybe 3 relatively young rookies, depending on whether Nogo decides to step back in or if they decide to put Nogo back in. But the youth is definitely showing pretty heavily. This has happened a couple of times. We've had teams like this before, where like Flash, when they were running 5 players, it took them a minute to get online. There have been a couple of teams like that are just super young that end up being a little bit too green for their own good. And eventually they get to their wins. Eventually they get to like, they start looking good towards the end of the split, because they started to figure things out, like you had said, by like going to the drawing board, figuring out mid games and things like that. So we'll see whether Box can kind of scale into the same avenue as all these other teams we've seen in the past.
Yeah, there's one team that immediately comes to my mind in the VCS context, which is OPG. They used to actually be more than decent in the early game. I think they had more than 50% gold leads at 15 minutes. I think it was still at that point, but then had a 20% win rate or even less. So they threw every mid game, but I feel like this is a new kind of difference. I can't remember even in any of the leagues I'm watching, so mostly LEC and some Asian leagues, and then checking with LCS here and there, such a stark difference in level in one particular part of the game. Like we see teams be of very different level, and mechanically and even in execution and objective setups when it comes to Baron setups and so on, where one team is clearly much better than the competition and one team is much worse. In NA right now, if you compare, maybe you would say worst macro is probably 100 Thieves and TL in the mid game, right? But it's not on an entirely different league. Like this is the most extreme difference I've seen a team have in ages.
Little action. Zodiac, he's trying to make plays happen. I guess that's the best we can come up with here, because I'm not sure what that was.
Ego.
Great kick to put slows right into Rano P. He has to cleanse to try to get out. Now Ego is going to be able to survive for a little longer. He's going to eventually go down as Yato goes over the wall trying to find slows. That's a big flank from Summoner trying to find something. He has to flash just to get on top of somebody, so he's not just completely wasted, as Yato's going to bring him down. A 2 for 3. Slows also driven completely out of the fight. So once again, Ego does not care. Ego's just I'll jump in. I don't mind. I'll take the death. I get some playmaking. Got a lot of jungle camps taken away from Vox Esports now. We've risen to 11k gold now also as well. I hadn't even realized that during the discussion of this 20 minutes, it's been an 11k gold lead generated here for the side of Cerberus.
Yeah, once again, this is the exact example we were talking about, right? This mid-game coordination that's missing, okay? Cerberus is doing a great job in invading the enemy topside jungle to get so much vision there, as we see a little bit of a Baron set, and once again, Zodiac is approaching. Zodiac, no, run away.
Yeah, Zodiac. Not going to get caught in the picture-in-picture. Again, you can appreciate when somebody's able to make plays like this. I think also Cerberus had pulled out of the situation a little bit more, and Ego was just, he was really hyper to kind of get back in and try to make something happen. So, yeah, he goes back in, Pun, trying to bully some people as well. That's actually a really, really good blast cone, as I should be able to help set up, force Zodiac out of the fight quite a difference. Pun is starting to take too much damage. He's going to jump into the pit. Yeah, I think they're just done here. You can see Artemis has bailed from it as well. A very quick call from the veteran player, just saying, okay, we don't need to do this. Everybody back. Let's go to Dragon. Let's make sure nothing else happens.
Taking it a little bit slower is probably a good approach here from Cerberus. They don't have to do any of these things, and you just pointed out 11k gold lead. They can really just do whatever they want, and it seems like they've loosened up a bit after a very tight early game, a very impressive early game. The mid game stages of this game have been rather loose and funny, I guess. A little bit of a happy game from Cerberus, but they're still in very firm control, so why not give the players a little bit more leniency, give them a little bit of time to express themselves on the Rift. I like to see that, especially with someone like Ego coming back into the team. He has always been this kind of stylish player. His name is appropriately chosen, right? He is a little bit of an ego player, so he likes to do these kind of style plays, these kind of over-aggressive, over-pushes into the enemy jungle. We know the Ego Herald back in the day, right? That's one of the coined phrases in the VCS English broadcast from Milky back in the day, so he's known for these kind of things, so I like to see it. It's a little foolish here and there, but why not? Have a little bit of fun. You're going to win against Box any day of the week anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I'm paying attention to here is that how much has Ego actually played with this roster? How much has Ego scrimmed with the roster? Yep. Because there's a very high chance that it has not been Ego scrimming for a decent amount of time. And if that is the case, you have to think that Ego is going to take a minute to kind of get re-ingratiated with, like, how do they set up team fights? How are they setting up objectives? And you can kind of sense that because Ego's wanting to fight to do it more often than not, rather than just like doing it some sort of systematic way, which is sort of the Ego way. But we want to see that kind of come together in one cohesive call. That's a massive roam warp on top of 4, and that's going to be 1 killed on the top side. I think Tomrio's just out. That's going to be Zodiac going down as well. Summer on the backside as well.
That was
going to get brought down. Emo has no way to get into that fight. Tomrio does end up going down to an arrow from Artemis, as Pun had this big ultimate in the midst of all things. Slows the only damage dealer really remaining now, as they're just going to bully down this top inhibitor tower. And what are you
come on, don't give the emotes. Oh, Pun, no, come on.
We love Pun, man. We love Pun. He's had a game and a half too. He has kind of been in a side lane for such a long time. Finally got into a team fight right there and looked pretty good.
Just spamming them with the question mark ping, the new one, not the old question mark ping, but this time Senna and Lucian together, just questioning what the hell is happening on screen. Really nice setup there. Cool engage into the middle of everyone. Zodiac just finds himself isolated on the side. Emo just look at Remo. He's Lissandra. Like no, let's just not play Lissandra in this game. I'll just walk back to base. It was a nice little excursion on the other side of the rift, but then he slowly just walks back into the base, and that's Baron for the side of Cerberus. Yeah, I think we've seen enough from this game. Cerberus can wrap it up now. I want to see another early game, because that was rather impressive.
Yeah, that I did like quite a bit. Again, to me at least, right now trying to reincorporate ego, it really is they're trying to focus on fighting to set things up. That's what they've got right now. Which you could I can look at this team and I can go, wow, Artemis does not feel comfortable doing this. Like I'm just like, Artemis is not the type of player that's like, yeah, let's fight, let's coin flip. That's such a like an LPL thing to just be like, hey, let's coin flip a fight and then that will set up our objective or something along that. Let's try to find a timer where we can push them out of their own jungle with a fight, find one pick onto somebody, and that is what's going to set up our Baron. That's going to set up our Dragon. That's what Ego's been doing. And like Artemis has backed out of those situations so many times in this game that I'm like, okay, now I'm understanding a little bit that it's going to take a minute before we get full-fledged Cerberus. So as good as they looked at the beginning of the game, I think they still have a lot of growth to be had, which is a terrifying prospect for later in the split for any team that's not named VCS Esports that might have to run headfirst into this squad.
And talking about Artemis, a little bit of an ego play for Artemis there. If you look at the enemy team's composition, as we have a little bit of an engage, this could be the final fight of the game.
Oh, get him, Pun. He's on the front line. Now you're delivering everybody into this line of champions. You got a couple of... Look at that triple Q coming out from that Cassante. And that's got to end the game right there. Oh, Zodiac almost got kicked into slows. As that would have been a really filthy way to kind of finish off this game. As Pun is still having fun with his food, man. He's living on top of these enemies, dude. This is the Pun that I want to see, let alone the ego I want to see. This is everybody on the side of Cerberus. Just this is the ego version of Cerberus, and you can really appreciate it. Look at this man.
Wait, where are they?
Yeah. Have you seen Cerberus Esports this like with this much swagger in the last 3 years? Like this is insane to watch. Yo way.